Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Punisher War Journal number 5, cover dated April 1989. This is a very designy cover. If you search online, you can find the original art to this posted online. There is a background penciled and inked in. The image is by Jim Lee, pencils by Jim Lee, inks by Carl Potts. But somebody thought up of the idea of removing that background and going for this posterish look with the red, magenta, yellow and orange look, and taking out the background and focusing on Sniper and Punisher here. I think it was a good choice. Also, it's the first appearance of a new corner box there with a bust type shot of the Punisher, and I really like the design element of the shadows of the slats of the Venetian blinds cast across his very grim looking face, and of course the big skull logo taking up the whole of his chest. That's a really nice corner box, one of my favorites in all of comics. Let's open this one up to the splash page. So this really picks up from the end of the previous issue. Title of the story there is Crucible, and over here we get the credits. Carl Potts plot and script, Jim Lee pencils, Scott Williams and company on ink. So not every single one of these pages is inked by Scott Williams. I'll point out some that are not inked by him and some that definitely are. Ken Lopez on letters and Greg Wright on colors rounds out the creative team. So the Punisher is emerging from the hotel in Westchester where the reunion of his Vietnam squad was being held, and he has basically gotten a confession from his old colonel, and his old colonel has shot himself. But he is in the telescopic lens of Sniper, and Sniper's thinking the wind's pretty stiff, I'd better wait until he's closer. It's got to be a clean headshot. Castle's Punisher chest skull is backed up by Kevlar armor, rather like Batman in Dark Knight Returns, where the Bat logo is backed up by Kevlar armor behind it. And there's that famous line in chapter 1 or issue 1 of Dark Knight Returns where he says, well, you know, like, why do you think I have a yellow background on the logo? It's a target to draw fire with the Kevlar backing up behind. So then on this particular page, 6 panels, we basically get a recap on what happened in the previous issue. You can find my review of the previous issue on the channel. This is Helen Shaw. She's the TV news reporter that the Punisher oversaw the Colonel calling into her with all of his confession about his involvement in drug running from Vietnam, and then at the end of that he had one last cigarette and shot himself. But now we pick up with the story going forward, and here we have Sniper 200 yards away with that huge sniper's rifle there, and thinking about himself, or thinking rather concerning Punisher as Punisher's walking to his van. You always had a soft spot that got you into trouble. In this biz, soft means you're dead, and Frankie, you're dead. So there he has the Punisher lined up for a headshot straight between the eyes. But what's this big hand casting a shadow over the side of Sniper's head? Well, it turns out to be a character who was set up in the previous issue. It's their old squad member Levin, who was left behind in Vietnam. There's, like, we're going to go into a flashback with the chopper taking off there, and Levin basically sends 800 volts through Von Buren's body, and Von Buren says, what the hell are you up to? We both work for the DEA. So there's some dirty agency tricks going on in this particular issue. Defense Espionage Agency is our little explanation for what the DEA is, rather than Drug Enforcement Agency. But I think that it is Marvel's editorial requirement that it not be so direct an identification of the DEA, but that's basically what they're talking about there, corruption in the DEA. And so Sniper says to Levin, like, tell me your story since I'm a captive audience, fill the gaps in for me. So Levin does. So he was left behind in Vietnam to be at the end of the rifles of a bunch of NVA, North Vietnamese army, as the choppers flew away. So he let them tie him up and march him off into the jungle where he made his move. So you see him there doing that. Somehow he is not being hit by all of that gunfire, and then he walks into the front of the muzzle of a gun. And what turns out then is he drops to the ground, and the NVA are shot. So who is it? And whoever's firing at the NVA, they're using M16 rifles, which of course are American issue. And it turns out that he was rescued, in a sense, by anti-red or anti-communist hill tribesmen. And they're the ones that were being supplied by Colonel Schoonover and the Americans, and they pulled his fat out of the fire, as he says. And then he continues and says, I stayed with them for a while and found I liked the benefits of being missing in action. I had no moral stand concerning the drugs the tribesmen were growing and exporting to support their cause. Eventually, the DEA hired me to help in the operation. The end of the war didn't seem to put much of a crimp in the business. It wasn't until much later that I heard you'd hired on as company assassin, he says to Von Buren. And now we're back in the present. Lots of rude stories floating around about you, Sniper. Lots of cold killings. So Sniper's a sociopath. And he protests here. He says, who are you kidding? We're both the same, killers for hire, working for the DEA, truth, justice, and the American way. But Levin thinks that he's morally superior. He says, I never killed anyone not directly involved in the business. So this dialogue between them continues until Sniper actually sneakily kicks Levin in the gut, pulls out this triangular knife and stabs him right in the gut. So that's a really nice action sequence there. 4 panels, very well told by Jim Lee. Let's continue with the story. 22 pages of story in this issue. This is another nice panel here, borderless panel. That is one of the tricks of the trade. If you want to make for a more interesting layout on your page, visually speaking, leave one of the panels borderless. And so we have Von Buren here explaining triangular blade wounds don't close up. You'll bleed to death in minutes. So that's not good for Levin. So he's there bleeding out on the ground, but we don't see him die. And that's always something to be suspicious of in comics. If you don't see a character die, there's a good chance they might show up again in another issue in the future. So now we pick up with the Punisher. He wasn't shot by Sniper. He had time to get in the van, and he is using information he got from the Colonel, the address that Von Buren lives at. Couldn't shake any more info out of him, says the Punisher to himself. And then he gets on the phone, on the computer phone, to Microchip, and he's asking Microchip for info on Von Buren. So Microchip is searching away, and he says, bad news for you. And this is a callback to the previous issue. I like this little detail where in the previous issue, Punisher's van was exploded off-road, like the front tire went out because he drove over a mine that was laid by Von Buren. But there were 2 mines that fell out on the road. And later in the issue, he saw that the second mine that he didn't stop and clear had taken out a car. And Microchip is giving him the information here. There was a family of 4 in that car that hit the mine Sniper left for you earlier. Sorry. So, you know, this is hitting home with Punisher, who, although he has a kill policy for criminals, especially those involved in the drug trade, he really does do his best in order to keep innocents out of his war. And he thinks to himself here, I used to be part of a family of 4. Drug dealing mob took Maria and the kids away from me. Drug dealers continue to kill the innocent. My work never ends. Ironic, that family might still be alive if I hadn't let Sniper escape at the airport to keep the casualties down. So he's kind of caught in these practical and ethical binds and dilemmas, which, you know, amplifies and ramps up the drama of the comic and Punisher's story. So Microchip then says, computer's drawing a blank on Sniper. Frank, if he's DEA as you suspect, the place is likely to have a lot of electronic defenses. So Punisher says the house is built into and near the top of a hill, lots of foliage and the stream down low, but lands open for about 80 yards around the house. And Microchip has got some suggestions just as Punisher arrives at the outside gate of Van Buren's home. So what we're going to get coming up now is like really procedural stuff in terms of how would you make your way into, in effect, a kind of like a fortress, what kind of defenses there would be, and what you might have to do in order to make your way in. So it's pretty good stuff, and here it starts. So basically, Microchip suggests to Punisher use the minigun on top of the Punisher van to blast the gate and chew up the road ahead. That should set off any mines. So you see what I mean? Like, this is the procedural stuff that's going on in this issue. So Punisher concurs. He says, "Good call, Micro." And now he arrives at the stream. This is like a moat around Van Buren's house. The radio-controlled bridge isn't responding to any of the codes you're transmitting, he says to Microchip. Water's too deep for the van to cross. Okay, so he's going to have to go in on foot. I'm stocking up and going out on foot, and Micro tells him, take it slow. Nice use of a screen tone here. I'm pretty sure that this particular, hatching work there on the ground is indicative to me of Scott Williams. So I think this is a Scott Williams inked page, as well as those little, if you can see them in high definition, those little white dots of paint there in the smoke of the explosion. That's another signal of Scott Williams' work. So this is a Scott Williams inked page, and that is a screen tone that he had in his kind of bag of tricks. So it's distinctive of him. And there are those little white like marks of paint as well in the shine on the glass rooftop of Van Buren's home. So anyway, Punisher stocks up. And what does he bring with him? A Gaunt's auto pistol, M16 with shotgun slung underneath, grenades, ballistic knife. Okay, so he's going in tooled up. And let's see how his infiltration works. But first of all, we get a really cool anchor image here from Jim Lee and Scott Williams. This is a Scott Williams ink page, and it's really cool of the Punisher there in his camouflage all over his face there. He's got his grenade in his hand, and he's got his M16 there. Isn't it an M16 again? Let me check that out. Let's see. Yeah, M16 with shotgun slung underneath there. So he is going in and ready for action. So in his journal, he's thinking Van Buren wouldn't rely only on DEA high-tech defenses. He'll also have this place covered by Viet Cong-style booby traps he picked up on in Nam. Have to be very careful, go slow. And then he realizes there's something against his leg. So he dives under the water of the stream. Grenades attached to tripwires. We used to make VC prisoners wait ahead of us for stuff like this. And so he takes a fishing weight on a string that the grenade was tied to, and he attaches it to the muzzle of his M16. And this is really cool. He uses it, good for detecting tripwires in high grass. And there it is, it catches one of those tripwires, and then he's almost to the open area. Got to cross it fast, he thinks. If he's home or returns now, I'm dead meat. And what's this? So some automated defense system has picked up on him. He's obviously tripped a laser. And these auto guns pop up out of the ground and start firing at him. So yeah, really cool sequence here. Oh yes, I like stylistically. Again, this is one of Jim Lee's tricks of the trade, where he'll put a figure in silhouette but keep certain details of the costume or uniform clear for color, or in this case, because the action is taking place at night, like this cool blue that Greg Wright is using. So Punisher starts blasting at those auto guns. Hope that's the last of the ground defense. He's just thinking to himself when he steps on a mine, and you can just see there the damage it does. Blows the top off his shoe. Bullet mine. Took off the tip of middle toe. Hurts like hell, he thinks. Lucky I wasn't standing on top of it. So he's almost inside the house, and what he does is he throws a grenade in to take out the main power feed, and then he sees a backup generator. He hears it and sees it. That kicks in from a fortified shed, and he sends off another grenade to take that out. And then this is really cool. So he pulls out his grenade launcher, and he uses it to make his own entrance into the house. Really, really good stuff. So, and I like the way that Carl Potts is pulling back on the verbiage, because Jim Lee's pencils, his art, is telling the story well. And so, we're not getting overloaded with a load of first-person narration, because Punisher is really focused on business. So he rushes in the hole he's created with the grenade he launched at the wall of the house. Sees in the dark a figure, but it turns out to be just a statue. And then he makes his way to Von Buren's home office and desk. And he finds, rather conveniently, Von Buren's journal out in the open, but there's a twist. Lots of info, but names are all in code. Should be able to decipher it with some study. Best way to put the DEA out of business is to put their dirty laundry in the media spotlight, he thinks. And then he makes a call to the telejournalist, Helen Shaw. This is the Punisher, he says. I'm handing you the exclusive story on the vet assassinations. So he gives her the address. This is like really kind of Jim Lee classic physiognomy now. You get a really square side to the Punisher's face there. I like also the lighting. It's like the lighting he uses in the corner box on the cover. It's nicely done. Another nice trick to make a face interesting in the art. Top down angle here on Shaw at her desk. She's pulling on her jacket. She's on her way. Punisher puts the phone down, and there is the car driving up to the glass windows. It's Sniper, and he crashes right in through those windows in order to knock over Punisher. Punisher dives away, loses his gun there. And now look at this. This I really like. So Carl Potts, savvy enough not to put any words on this page. Punisher's gone quiet. He's hiding from Von Buren. Von Buren sees a boot sticking out from behind his office desk. So he fires away at it, but it was a trick from the Punisher, who's up on the roof there looking at Von Buren running over to the desk. That's really good stuff. And Jim Lee's art sells what's happening without any requirement of any kind of third-person narration. That's really good stuff, and that shows that Jim Lee has really developed confidence and skill as a visual storyteller by this point in his career. This page not inked by Scott Williams. So whoever this is it Carl Potts? I don't know, but it's definitely not Scott Williams. But turn the page, and the Punisher drops down on Von Buren. Again, this is not Scott Williams inks. And you can see here that Jim Lee hasn't 100% codified the upshot, up 3/4 profile shot on a face. It's not 100%. He hasn't got it 100% yet, but he will in time. So the Punisher crashes down on Von Buren, and he tells him, "You're done. You're going to decipher." He was going to say his journal, but Von Buren replies and says, "Shut up, Frank. Not like you to gab so much." And here, see established on top of this column, there's a crossbow, and Von Buren obviously able to set it off remotely. He must have some remote there that he's used to set it off, and it shoots Punisher in the hand, in his forearm. So you can see the arrow there right through his forearm. These couple of pages inked by Scott Williams for sure. So now we're going to get a nice fight sequence here, and hand-to-hand combat. Von Buren talking now, despite what he said earlier. "We're both killers with body counts so high we've lost track. Or are you soft like Levin, letting petty morals shackle you? I showed him the difference between us. Your turn now. So he boots Frank right in the jaw there. That's really nicely done. And now another one of those top-down angles, borderless panels from Jim Lee, keeping things interesting. And you see there that Punisher has pulled that arrow out of his arm. And at this point, Sniper realizes that there's a chopper coming along. And Punisher is thinking, as he's taking that beating from Von Buren, we're in a crucible, boiling down, getting to the essence, boiling, getting down to the primal. When we've reached it, will there be a difference? So that's a question that's been asked in terms of like, what is the moral difference between Levin and Sniper and Frank Castle, the Punisher? You know, what distinguishes them from each other? Punisher's an anti-hero, but you know, is he in the same moral sphere as Levin? Is he in the same moral sphere as Sniper? There you see again like that upshot, 3/4 profile upshot on Punisher. Not quite 100% right just yet in Jim Lee's art, but he will get it right very shortly. Here's the TV crew arriving on the scene, and this is the difference between Punisher and Sniper. So Sniper basically pulls out that triangular knife again and sticks it right in the, it looks like in the neck or the side of the head of the video camera operator. This is your fault, Frank, he says. You brought them here, all your fault. So Punisher, in his monologue, is aghast. No, not another, he says. And then he pulls out that Gauntz that he mentioned earlier. And there's time for Sniper to admire it. Nice piece. I got a nice piece here too, Frank. He's got Helen Shaw there. Your soft Punisher. He keeps talking about how the Punisher is soft, how Levin is soft. He thinks he's the hard man. Your soft Punisher, he says, I know you want me alive. I'm your only chance to put the DEA down for good. And you can't stand the blood of another innocent on your hands. If I leave, she lives. So you think, you know, okay, the Punisher is going to agree to that, but he has a very dark perspective on Helen Shaw, and this was established in the previous issue. The fact that she uses cocaine recreationally, and the Punisher thinks, you know, very darkly, she's not so innocent, just a cokehead who denied any responsibility for supporting drug-related violence, the violence she's now a victim of. If he gets away, it'll only mean more bodies later. So Punisher's going to make a decision here about whether he's going to shoot Sniper and take a chance in relation to whether Sniper cuts her throat as he shoots him. What'll it be, hero? Asks Sniper. So we get that tight close-up on his gritted teeth and the horror on the telejournalist's face as well. So this is it. Like, this is the standoff moment. What decision is the Punisher going to make? By the way, another page inked by Scott Williams. And this is it. He decides, despite her being a coke fiend, to toss his gun away. We are different, Von Buren, he says. Von Buren's smiling there evilly. Yeah, you're a loser, Frankie. Frank, I like this girl, dumb, just like you. And then he says to the chopper pilot, move this crate or die. Be seeing you. And he throws her on the ground. And I'm just left thinking to myself, if I was that chopper pilot and all that stuff was going on outside the chopper, I either would have flown away or run away. But the pilot remained for the sake of the story, even though it's established later that Von Buren can, in issue number 10, that he can fly a chopper. But in any case, so Punisher here pops a grenade, throws it after the chopper, but he misses. That's a really nice page. Good stuff on that page. And we are coming to the very end of the story, last page here. So he's there watching the chopper fly away into the dawn light, and Shaw's there on the ground. She gets up. Punisher's saying nothing. Look how dark his face is there with the camouflage. And so she asks him as he's walking to Von Buren's car, so what do we do now? And this is a great ending from the Punisher. Not at all a sentimental man. He really did mean what he said earlier about her being a coke fiend and complicit in the violence of the drug trade and not innocent. A lot of booby traps around here, he says. Watch your step, and drives off and just leaves her there. What an ending. And then, of course, every issue you get Punisher War Journal equipment page. So this is about a sniper rifle, a very powerful scope, puts me right up close. Punisher says in his journal, accurate shots from 2,000 yards are not unheard of. It can carry 11 rounds. The rifle fits easily into a musical instrument case until I'm ready to play a percussive refrain. That's hilarious. So that's Elliot R. Brown's equipment page, art and script by him. There you go. Good stuff in this issue. And yeah, Punisher War Journal number 5. Let me know your thoughts on this issue, Jim Lee's art, the development of his art, the pairing with Scott Williams in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube and consider sharing it. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.